The latest two stories out of Pittsburgh have left fans with more questions than answers. First, the offensive line, which was supposed to be the foundation of this new era, is falling apart, and according to an insider, the real issue might not be the players, but the coaching. But what really lit a fire in the locker room were Arthur Smith's latest actions. The offensive coordinator reportedly blasted brutal headlines in front of the entire team and threw down the gauntlet. Was it bold leadership? Or a sign of growing desperation? Tension is building fast in Pittsburgh. But before we get to the locker room drama, let's talk about why this O-line is becoming a serious problem. The Steelers' front office under Omar Khan had a pretty straightforward game plan when they took the wheel. Build from the trenches and draft the toughest dudes they could find. We're talking wrestlers, maulers, and trench warriors. But here's the thing. Despite all that muscle and potential, the offensive line has been a hot mess, and folks have started pointing fingers. But according to insider Mike DeFabo, they're aiming at the wrong target. Khan? He did his job. He brought in the talent. DeFabo says the real issue is what happens after these guys show up to camp. It's not the scouting or the picks that are the problem. It's what's happening on the practice field. Or more accurately, what's not happening. These guys were drafted because they had the upside, DeFabo said. It's the coach's job to mold that into a cohesive unit. They haven't. That's why we're going to be talking about the O-line this year, and probably for the next couple after that. The line's been getting cooked. 0 run game, 7 sacks, same story, different year. That elite, nasty O-line identity the Steelers had in the 2010s? Long gone. And the man in the crosshairs is offensive line coach Pat Meyer. Nobody outside the UPMC Rooney complex can figure out how the guy still has a job after the disaster that was 2024. He struggled back in Carolina, and now he's just dragging down what could be a talented group in Pittsburgh. If he's still around next year, it might be another season wasted for some promising young players. And make no mistake, there's talent here. Zach Frazier, that rookie center, came out swinging and already looks like he belongs in the conversation with the franchise greats. The dude's a rock in the middle, and fans are already hyped about what he can become. Then there's Isaac Sumalo, the old head in the room. He came over from Philly's elite O-line, and he's basically a coach on the field. The younger guys lean on him, but he can only do so much. He's not Superman, and with his contract expiring and Father Time creeping in, he might not be back next year. Broderick Jones? He's had ups and downs, but he's at least looked like a legit starter on the left side. The problem is he's got room to grow, and that growth is tied directly to the coaching he gets. If the next guy in charge knows what he's doing, Jones could take off. Troy Fautanu's been the weak link so far, but he missed almost all of last season, so he's essentially a rookie. There's a ton of development left in his game, and it's way too early to label him a bust. Still, he's part of a group that can't protect the QB or open up running lanes, and that's a coaching issue. But if the offensive line is worrying, what's happening on the other side of the ball is even more intense. Arthur Smith's explosive approach just shook the locker room. Arthur Smith's era in Pittsburgh was supposed to mark a turning point, a long overdue offensive reboot. The Steelers were tired of being boring and predictable, and they brought in Smith to inject some life and fire into a unit that had been dragging for years. In his debut season in 2024, there were a few bright moments, sure, but not enough to silence the critics. The offense still couldn't find its rhythm, and the same old Steelers offense narrative stuck around like a bad habit. So now, heading into 2025, the pressure is cranked all the way up. But here's the kicker. Smith's not backing down. In fact, he's leaning into the noise. With 41-year-old Aaron Rodgers commanding the huddle and a revamped group that includes DK Metcalf, Calvin Austin III, and a trio of tight ends who can get it done, Smith's got more firepower than ever. This is the most stacked offense he's had to work with, and expectations aren't just high, they're sky high. Now, Arthur Smith's not just an X's and O's guy. He's an emotional spark plug, and according to former Steelers tight end Michael Pruitt, he knows exactly how to light a fire under his team. Pruitt spilled the beans on the Chipped Ham and Football podcast this week, saying that one of Smith's go-to moves is pulling up harsh headlines and blasting them in front of the whole squad. Yeah, this is what they're saying about us, but we're gonna go write our own story, Smith tells them. That's his vibe. He wants guys to feel that chip on their shoulder, to feel that pressure, own it, and turn it into fuel. Whether it's the Pittsburgh media dragging them after a loss or national talking heads saying they're cooked, Smith's using it all as motivation. And you know what? That kind of mindset matters. because right now, the Steelers aren't coasting behind a lockdown defense. The D's been shaky, which means the offense has to carry the weight. Smith and Mike Tomlin are trying to build something tough, something resilient, and Smith's turning the media noise into part of the culture. He wants these guys to prove the world wrong, not just play ball. Of course, talk is talk, execution is everything, and not everyone's convinced Smith is the guy to lead this turnaround. He still has to show he can take all that talent and turn it into a high-powered, consistent offense. The Week 3 showdown in New England is a big test. You can bet he's already got some headlines saved up, ready to throw on the screen and get his guys fired up. If Smith delivers, he's a genius. If he doesn't, he wastes a golden roster. And with the O-line in shambles, nothing will click. The pressure is sky high. Hit that subscribe button so you don't miss any Steelers updates.